Welcome, Chosen One.
Price of Power Once Upon a Pyre Card Reveal Review. That's how you do it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to part 5 of the thing I just said. Today we'll be looking at the Skellige cards, including my own reveal. The best reveal, maybe? The best card, not the best presentation. Because I will admit, I didn't put as much effort into it as some people did, but I just wanted to get it out to you guys. And I wanted to be in line with my style, which is just low effort, high rambling amount. And I think I nailed it. Yes, Skellige today, my favorite faction. I was obviously very, very hyped, or very excited to see what Skellige would bring to this expansion. I'm going to be honest, when we did get those initial hints, and they said Skellige would be about, manipulating the rain and the storms. And people were saying druids, weather. Like, that all sounded cool, but I wasn't too hyped. I don't know why. I really don't know why. Because I like druids. I like weather. But, spoiler alert, I am very happy. Very happy with, obviously, the best faction. The first card is Tears of Siren. It's the common card of 4 provision alchemy. Spawn rain on an enemy row for 2 turns, then spawn a deafening siren on the opposite row. So upwards of a 6 for 4. Good value right there. It does get slightly countered by shields, armor. Maybe your opponent isn't playing a lot of units and you don't get 2 units on the same row. That's kind of disappointing. But all in all, it is a 4 provision card. And it will generally play for decent value. And of course it does have its synergies. You know, Alchemy can bring back Crowmother. It can proc the Preachers. The Rain has synergies with some of the other cards. So overall, I think it's a cool card design. You know, with bronzes, and especially 4 provision bronzes, there is a limitation to how much there is to say, because the cards are limited in what they can do. But I do think this card does, you know, go to the top of the list in my book. I have a list in my book, obviously. It goes to the top of the list of cards that do the most within the 4 provision frame. Of course, there are cards that can do a lot more. There are cards that do maybe more spicy things. Cards that reach higher point levels. But this is just solid points, solid synergies, great art. I had to go there. And, you know, a little bit of a flavor, you know? Because there's this Siren who you spawn on your row. And judging by the art, by the picture, she is giving you this alchemical ingredient or potion, or like, I don't know if it's just an ingredient or if it's an actual thing. Either way, the druids are able to use that to spawn rain, command the storms. And I love that sort of flavor. I love tokens, man. I love tokens that are used in flavorful ways. I love the card Frixnet. That's probably not how you say it, but the Devotion Scoia'tael card that boosts a Dryad in your hand or spawns a young Dryad. Devotion to both. And, you know, in the art, it's this Dryad. I don't remember which one it is. It's one of the Dryads. And it's, you know, this guy, Frixnet. And it's like, the flavor text says, oh, he was supposed to just be her breeding stud, but they fell in love. And then it's like, oh, you know, he's boosting a Dryad in your hand. Maybe that's her. And then they make a baby because he's a breeding stud. But they're in love, so it's cute. They make a baby, a young Dryad. That's fantastic use of a token. Better than this, but this is still up there. You know, because in my book I have several lists And this card is on the top of a lot of those lists. Or, you know, close to the top. Wow. But Tears of Siren, excellent 4 provision card. But obviously not nearly the most exciting part of what Skellige is getting this expansion. Let's move on to the big man himself. Fulmar, revealed by yours truly. It was a great honor to get to reveal the legendary card for my favorite faction. Fulmar is a strong card. I mean, I read everything people were saying on Reddit, on the reveal thread, and people are hyped. And I'm happy to see that. And I agree. I am also very hyped. This is a strong card. And there was one comment in particular. You know, I won't be able to quote it exactly, but it wasn't that complex, so I think I can explain it. It was basically someone saying that Fulmar should be like the benchmark for this type of high provision cost card. And I fully agree with that. Because what Fulmar does is that, you know, he costs 12 provisions, right? That is an expensive card. That is your top end. This is contributing. This is one of the cards that is contributing the most points to your game plan, usually. And, you know, as we've seen, especially with the Nilfgaard, and we may continue to see in Nilfgaard with Reens, although hopefully not. Expensive cards that do not play for good value on deploy. Unless, you know, there is some wacky, exceptional circumstance, they're not good. They're not going to be good. Because that's just the way the game works. And it's clear that the developers, for the most part, have realized this and implemented, you know, this very real fact into their design approach. Because obviously we've seen this with more recent legendary cards. Some, I think, they went too far with. But then there are also some, like Fulmar, where I think it's perfect. This guy plays for good value right away. 6-point body. You get to spawn and play an alchemy, trigger all the synergies that has. That alchemy will play for upwards of 6 points. And then, I mean, already there, it's a good card. Like, it's not game-breakingly spectacular with that effect, but it's a good card. Like, people play, you know, Jacques just as a good 12 for 12 point slammy card. Now, he's also a spender, which is good. It's good to have spenders that, you know, are also really good cards on their own. But, you know, like the main draw to Jacques, I really feel, is just, it's 12 for 12. And it's like, okay, why isn't Spear Tip good? I mean, I personally think he is. I love old Spear Tip. But, you know, he goes tall. He goes a bit tall. You know, Jacques goes wide. But with some armor on the token, so it's not even that susceptible to row punish. And he's a spender. And of course, with Devotion, he's also a profiteer, if you will. And I am personally a big fan of playing Usurper just as a point slammy top end card in a lot of various Nilfgaard decks, because Usurper, you know, with Devotion especially, which is not super relevant to me, because he becomes an aristocrat, but I don't play Masquerade Ball, so I don't care. But he's a soldier, he triggers Assimilate, he's good points, Spy Synergy, I love Spies. And there again, just it's a 12 for 12, but it's just the consistency of the point slam and the synergies makes it good. It makes it just a solid card. Usurper, obviously, a banger in a short round, but also can definitely hold his own in a long round. Excuse me. Fulmar, less good in a shorter round, but unless you have a lot of additional rain that you have to somehow apply, he does work. But in a long round, with a lot of rain, he turns it all into storm. Because his order, which I haven't even mentioned yet, but I mean you have had probably like 5 minutes to read it. Order, replace rain on an enemy row with storm of the same duration. So if you do it the very next turn, there's still a turn of rain left from the Tears of Siren. You can play another Tear of Siren for 2 more turns. You can use leader charges with the Rage of the Sea for 2 extra turns, 4 extra turns, depending on, you know, how much time you have. And then you just turn it all into storm. And it's good. It's so good, and it's so cool. It's so cool. This is something that I've actually wanted to talk about before in relation to Wild Hunt. But it's super relevant now, and I think Skellige right now does it even better. At least for me. Row effects are boring. I mean, they are boring. It's just, you know, damage the highest enemy unit by 2. Damage the lowest enemy unit by 2. Damage 2 random units by 1. And then Cataclysm. Ooh. Damage a unit by 1 randomly 3 times. Like, they're not interesting. It's just various ways of dealing a little bit of damage every turn. They have cool visual effects. But that alone is not enough. Row effects are boring. Weather effects. Prior to some of the cards that we have gotten in, you know, the layer portion of current Gwent's existence, prior to that, you know, row effects, they meant nothing. There was no incentive to play them because they're not cool, they're not interesting, nothing. But then, you know, Wild Hunt started actually using the row effects in ways that were cool. The row effect themselves, still boring. You know, but then you have Naglfar's Crew, which, you know, is an engine as long as you have Frost on the board. You have Eredin, which, you know, is an engine-ish, adding more damage to Frost on the board. And then later we got Ancient Foglet, which cares about all row effects and their duration. Really cool. And now we're getting this, where it's flavorful, which to me is probably the most important thing. I love flavor. The new Foglet spawning fog when it dies. That's flavor. That's flavor right there, baby. I love it. And then Fulmar, obviously, he's probably like this big cultist druid leader, right? Obviously, manipulating the weather. And he can turn a little bit of rain into a full-fledged storm. That is badass. The actual rain row effect, that's boring. Storm, also boring, but on a wider scale. But just the flavor that turning rain into storm adds to this card, what it tells about this character, and what I believe this will make the player feel when they play the card. It's like, ooh, Fulmar, this big badass druid cultist manipulating the weather. He's badass. Look at this puny rain. Boom. It's storm. It just sounds so badass, and I absolutely love this card. Not to mention, just the druid archetype. It needed a big boy druid. It needed a big boy druid. The biggest druid we have before this is Crow Mother, right? And don't get me wrong, she's amazing. I love Crow Mother. One of my favorite cards. And she works really bad with this because he plays in alchemy. You don't have to draw a shitty alchemy card to ensure Crow Mama carryover. You can just draw, you know, one of the best cards in your deck. It's that easy. So just a big, very good, consistent value. Awesome, flavorful order effect on just a big man. Big druid man. It's so good. Fulmar, my man. Can you tell I'm hyped? Because I'm hyped. Spoiler alert, I am playing druids. as my first Price of Power video, just so you know. Ah, Fulmar. I gotta take a breather before we talk about the next card, but you won't have to watch that. But Fulmar, you know, one of the coolest cards in Gwent for me. And that says a lot, because we've gotten a lot of cool cards lately. So, good job, Gwent team. Good job. You've come a long way from designing peasant militia to this. A very long way. Alright, next up. This was the last card to be revealed, but I'm doing it now because that's just the order I saved the image files in. That's the way this works. Melusine or Melusine Cultist. 3 for 5 with 1 armor. Order spawn rain for 2 turns on an enemy row. At the end of your turn, if there is rain on the opposite row, boost the unit to the right by 1. If there is storm on the opposite row, boost adjacent units by 1 instead. That's a lot to take in. I can just say right off the bat, I mean, this card is solid. But I think it's one of the worst cards in the expansion. And then that may be a hot take. I mean, it's not bad. It is not bad. At all. At all. I mean, it is a Temerian drummer. As long as you're maintaining rain on the opposite row, it's a Temerian drummer. But then, if it survives a turn, it also spawns rain for 2 turns. That's upwards of 4 extra points. And then once you transform that into Storm, or you play Storm if you're a mad lad, it becomes an Anna Stranger for a short duration. The points on this card, if it survives, like even just by itself, assuming you get full rain value, we're talking 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If it survives and you have no additional rain or storm, it's a 9 for 5. If you have anything else to apply, more points. Or he gets killed. He gets killed. And I've seen a lot of people saying that it's a bad card because it dies to removal. You know, some cards do that. Some cards do that. And it's just a bronze card. If it dies to 5 provision removal, that's fine. If it dies to 4 provision removal, it's not the end of the world. Besides, if you use one of your many other ways to apply rain before you play him, you'll get a boost. If he dies to 4 provision removal then, yes, your opponent traded up a provision, but you're still left with 1 point. If he dies to 5 provision removal, you just traded up a point. Like, just straight up. Like, it's... all you need is to have rain on the opposite row when you play him, and there's no way you lose. You may lose the round, you may lose the match, but you're not going to lose the trade. It's a solid card. It's a very solid card. And the more I think about it, the more I want to take back that statement about this being one of the worst cards. But the thing is, all the cards are good. All the cards have been good. Especially the bronzes have been really good bronzes. And this guy is just... I don't know. He's no exception. But he does die. That is valid. I mean, the Nilfgaard bronzes, you don't care if they die. They play for insane value and then they're done. The monsters bronzes, well, you know, one is just a 9 for 5 point slam in the right deck. And the other is a 4 provision engine that immediately goes to 6 strength. And unless your opponent is playing Skellige and they somehow have Bloodthirst 2, and actually, against relics that are very base power focused, I guess that's not too difficult. They can gutting slash it. They can gutting slash it and trade evenly on provisions. Wow. NR, of course, does have the Banard Apprentice or Banard Student, which is sort of similar, except it is 4 provisions, so it never trades down. So, like, the only reason this card is maybe one of the worst in the expansion is just because it's slightly more susceptible to removal. But even then, if you can just get that one immediate boost, you're fine. You're fine. And he looks badass. And I do enjoy the fact that he does have a very similar effect to a Temerian Drummer. And he has a drum. He's a drummer. Like that's just... Like, I know, like, boosting in Skellige is not... It's not that big a deal. I mean, boosting self for very greedy purposes, of course. But boosting allies is not something Skellige does a lot. But just what this is just it has cross-faction continuity, where boosting the unit to the right, that's the thing that drummers do. It may be silly, but I actually really appreciate that. It's just the continuity, the flavor. I love it. I love this card. Speaking of cards I love, Bride of the Sea. Holy shit. A 4/8 epic card. Deploy, play an alchemy card from your graveyard with provision cost 4 or less. Increase the maximum cost by the total duration of rain and storm on the opponent's side. Oh, I love it when they use provision costs in their abilities. I really do. It's so cool. It's so cool, and this card is so good. I mean, even with no setup, no rain. The 4 provision alchemies. I mean, they're both 6 for 4s, aren't they? They're 6 for 4s. Even Golden Froth, if you play that, that's a 6 for 4. So, I mean, this card has a floor of 10 points for 8 provisions, and you play an alchemy. And then just add some rain. It's not hard. It's not hard to add some rain. And you can cast more expensive cards. Obviously, you know, there are people who are like, ooh, Stick Drift was right, baby. I'm actually not a fan of that card anymore. I mean, I like the effect. I dig the effect. It's just, there are so few uses for it. And the few that we have, I'm not that into. Like, I don't know why. It's just like Draco Turtle stuff I'm not that hyped about. Besides, I am going to play Rage of the Sea with these beautiful new cards. Not Battle Trance. So, Draco Turtle, not really an option. Defender, sure. Defender would be pretty decent. But then what? Artists? I mean, in a different deck, yes, but not this. Or no artists. But I think the real kicker is going to be 6 provision cards. Because, you know, that's 1 leader charge. Or, you know, the last guy, the Melusine Cultist's order effect. And you get 2 turns of rain. And you get to replay a 6 provision card. Alchemy card. You know, that can be a Freya's Blessing to bring back a Crowclan Preacher. A Crowclan Preacher. It can be a Giga Scorpion Decoction or a delirium for pretty solid removal. It can be Elfin Onion Soup. Obviously the best card in the game. Elfin Onion Soup. Now, sure, it's not the best card, but I mean, I've played Elfin Onion Soup quite a bit in Druids in the past. Chrome Mother is a great target. And if you need a secondary target, just Ermion is pretty decent. But then it does get a bit sketchy. You know, I've used to do it with like Morkvarg and then purify him with Gremist. He comes back again and again. But really, like, there's no prime second target. But you at least have Chromama. That's pretty good. So you have, you know, you have Frey's Blessing for just those greedy engines. You have removal. You have memes. Bride of the Sea, baby. Bride of the memes. Or the removal. Or the res. Other notable cards you can get? I don't think there are any. There aren't that many alchemy cards, and that's a shame. Especially like expensive alchemy cards that, you know, you just go all in with leader charges and order effects just to spawn so much rain and then play this 12 provision alchemy card. That would be amazing. I mean, you would just need 8 turns of rain. You get 4 from your leader. It could work. It could work. Would be terrible though. But that's good. We don't have 12 provision alchemy cards, so it's fine. But Bride of the Sea, gorgeous card. I mean, not just the beautiful lady, but the effect. Graveyard interaction, always love to see that, especially in Skellige. It's supposed to be their thing, and it feels more like their thing now. Playing with provision costs, yes, and what a cool way to use weather effects. You know, I was talking about how weather effects by themselves are boring. It's the way they use them that make them interesting. This is it. This is probably, I mean, this and Fulmar, like, I don't know which one is number 1. But these are the best uses of row effects ever. Honestly, if there were more good alchemy cards within, you know, realistic provision costs, you know, to add flexibility to this card, it would be my favorite use of row effects. But because it's really just, I mean, it's going to be a removal, right? It's going to be a Giga Scorpion. And then it doubles as a Freya's Blessing. I really don't think we'll see much outside of that. Realistically speaking. But hey, whenever they add alchemies in the future, Bride of the Sea will be a relevant card to look back to. And that's the sign of a good card. When it's good on release, but it also can, you know, stay relevant and become more relevant in the future. Thank you for watching this card reveal review of the Skellige part of Price of Power Once Upon a Pyre. Oh, I'm so glad Skellige got so awesome cards. And I'm happy that it's not warrior focused. I mean, yes, rain can benefit warriors quite a bit, but you know, committing the provisions to put like a Fulmar in your warrior deck, it's not. You don't want to do that. You don't want to spend 12 provisions on a non-warrior card just for some rain. No. And Fulmar, you know, he wants a more rain-heavy deck just to really maximize the effect of his order ability. Bride of the Sea wants some extra rain. And again, it's not a warrior, so you don't really want to commit the provisions. I like that. I like that they made, you know, these awesome druids that feel really unique. They have their own theme. They work with existing druids. But they don't support that stupid warrior archetype. Be done with those guys. We don't want them in here. But I'm really hyped. We've seen 5 out of 6 factions, and the last faction is Skellige. So I think it's safe to say that for me personally, Skellige did come out on top. And I love that I can say that. You know, thematically, flavor-wise, card design-wise, just everything. Everything. Skellige wins. You know that book of mine with all these lists that I allegedly have? Skellige's on top of that list. Let me know down below what you think of these cards. I've read like a lot of Reddit comments on the reveal threads, and people seem genuinely hyped for these Skellige cards. So I expect some positivity in the comments, but of course if you do have some criticism towards the cards, do share, do discuss. I'd love discussing Gwent. I say that, but I have not really replied to any of the comments on these videos, have I? I've been busy. It kind of sucks, though. Discuss with each other. But I do read all your comments. I promise you that. And maybe I'll do like a comment reply session. We'll see. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this card review. Hope you enjoyed these new cards. And hope to see you again soon when I talk about Skellige and neutrals. And of course next Tuesday. Hopefully, if I'm able to even record that day. I should be. Hope to see you then. When we play some Skellige Druids. Spawn some rain, bitches. We're gonna rain on them parades, yo. I know I'm a white guy. I know I'm a cringy white guy. Anyway, I'll see you soon.